You have to do the full process. People who just work all the time, 24/7, are trying to shortcut it. You will find issues in that. I put Cascade on and she came over and she went, "You're a real DJ!" And I was like, I am! I'm imagining like some people who quite like me watching this and going, "What the fuck, he isn't the person I thought he was." It's the anxiety of, will I make it to where I want to make it? I told you it caught me in a dark moment. Like,
I don't know if it's dark, mate.
it's not dark, but it's quite honest. What frustrates me most about the situation that happened with Robbie, that's how you see me like, wow, that's not my intention.
Right, hello everybody, welcome back to The Process with the most requested person.
By far.
Gotta be happy with that.
Yeah.
Gotta be delighted with that.
It's because no one knows anything about me.
That's it. Well, yeah. So this is my first question, which will lead into something that we've chatted about twice and then gone, no, stop, let's talk about this on The Process.
But I think people are going to really enjoy this episode, not because of me, but because I love chatting with you.
Lovely.
We have great chats.
Yeah, and do you know what I did as well? So here's a quick plug for the podcast, so you can listen to all of these as a podcast.
Spotify, iTunes.
Both available.
All over.
I did a little recording before you got here.
Brilliant.
Just to kind of go, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm
That's
gonna
good.
like.
I love that. That's
we'll
great.
see, and we'll see how it kind of comes out.
Yeah.
So
if you don't hear that recording, you know it didn't come out the way that he was.
Maybe, yeah. And it just made you sound bad.
Yeah. If you just start the podcast and just go cunt, and then straight into it.
Yeah. Then it's gone bad afterwards, or he's been absolutely lovely for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Then he's become a cunt.
That becomes a problem. Yeah.
So here's the first question: Do you think you have a quiet mind? Or do you have a sort of busy mind? Are you always thinking?
It's a really interesting question, actually, isn't it? I think I actually have quite a quiet mind. I don't think it's that busy, although maybe I've become much better at organising my
your thoughts.
My thoughts. Although Brian would disagree.
So the reason I asked that is, my wife, she says we'll be about to go to sleep, leave it.
Right.
We'll be about to go to sleep and she'll go, what are you thinking? And I'll be thinking, I know we've got the podcast tomorrow, so I was just thinking of like whatever, or like, I've just had this idea for like whatever. So I feel like I've got quite a busy mind. I struggle to kind of switch off.
Okay, I want to change my answer.
Right, so then I'd ask her, I go, so what are you thinking about? She's like, honestly, nothing. Like there's
really?
She says she'll be on the tube and it's just like
I'd handle that bullshitter like this. I go liar, all right? Because it's not true. You are always thinking of something. You'll always be thinking of something. If you don't have any,
but what's meditation then?
Not to have
what's meditation? Because that's something you've said to me. You've attempted meditation.
Yeah, I've got the Calm app.
You've got the Calm app. Yep.
And meditation really works for me, but not in the sense that when I'm meditating, then everything comes out. I see the benefit a week later. Like it's not a delayed reaction, but it's something that sort of slowly happens for me. So if I meditate for a week, the week after, I'll slowly feel the benefit of that.
Okay. So it's
sort
not instant. Because I've tried it a tiny bit, but it is, when you look at videos and go, this is how you meditate, this is why it's good, all these things, they do say this is a lifetime pursuit.
Yes.
Like this is not something, I did it for a week and it was like really easy. They say, well, in the videos I've watched, they say you must commit to this. You have to kind of be doing this every single day. Which
I find unusual because actually I don't find I have to do it every single day. I'll find one day, even if I just do one day, I will feel 10 times better the week after.
But I think if you want to get to this sort of Zen state that they talk about.
Yeah.
No, but you're not.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not that I don't want to get to it. It's also that I think, well, fucking hell, if I'm in this Zen state and then I've got to do true news, I'm fucked. Laurence, what do you think of that? I feel indifferent. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Brian, you're coming across very angry, Brian.
Yeah. You need to get control of your emotions. It doesn't. I'm fine. Do you know what I mean?
I know you are. You're absolutely fine.
Yeah. So what I want to change my answer to is I think I have quite an active mind, but I'm quite used to it. And I know for a fact it pisses some people off. But I know for a fact that you've got to be in the right mindset to be alongside that. So you have to be the right kind of person for that.
You say that a lot. You bring that up a lot, that you're like, I know I'm annoying, or I know, because every time you say it, I honestly don't find you annoying.
We're quite compatible in that sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I know there will be times where you will have been annoyed with me. Like, for instance...
But isn't that everyone?
Maybe, but I sometimes also think I am quite a tolerant person in terms of, you know, being just around other people. So even if someone makes a massive mistake, it's very rare that I'll go, oh, for fuck, can you change that? I'll just go, they'll probably learn it in time. And that's something that I really like that about myself. Do you know what I mean? I'm someone who you just, or at least I see myself as someone who, when someone makes a mistake, I don't go, nail him for that, get him, make him pay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go, he'll learn. And, you know, in time they'll get it.
But I feel like I've had a conversation at some point where you've said that wasn't always the case either. There were moments where you would get very irate about things.
16-year-old Laurence was an angry atheist.
Oh, let's dive into 16-year-old Laurence. Lovely.
And I
paint the picture of 16-year-old Laurence. Yeah, I love it.
I lived with my dad in a four-bedroom semi-detached. A four-bedroom detached. Just want to be absolutely clear because I want him to get the full credit for what he deserves. And he's quite a quiet person. Not reserved, but definitely sort of just quite. He was one of the calmest people in my life, and was, you know, I was going through this angry or sort of resentful ex-Catholic, now atheist phase, where it was like, you know.
So where was
all those guys? The God delusion. Even my grandma was getting it both barrels. You know what I mean? Where it was like, you don't really believe in God, do you, Grandma? So
to go back a tiny bit more then,
yeah.
Where's the Catholic upbringing coming from?
Well, it's not really, like, both my parents were, one's agnostic, probably respectfully agnostic, and the other one is atheist, but sort of very far, the crystals and gems atheist sort of end. So it's less about, I don't have a God, it's more...
highly spiritual though.
Yeah, like sort of, you know, I go to festivals with them and, you know, go to the man.
So that's
my mum.
Your mum.
And my dad is very much the square.
Okay.
So he's not a square at all, but people will, because he's not someone who goes, here's how I see the world, and I need you to know it. People go, well, you must have very normal. And I realised afterwards he was a man who would, if I was saying really angry, you know, God delusion things, he wouldn't go, that's stupid, why are you saying that? He'd go, okay, well, why do you think that? And he'd just explore the thought with me and just let me get it out.
Right.
And then he'd just go, cool, let's move on. And then we move on. And
which you have that. You have that trait, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're happy to explore things. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to. But what frustrates me is when someone goes, "Cool, we've made that conclusion, concluded." Like that never happens. That never happens. There are people who want a boxed off, simple life really annoy me, and that comes then. And that's why I was thinking about this the other day. That massively impacts my process, and my process has always been one where I want every video to be all-encompassing. I want it to include the whole world. I want it to include like an aspect of everything, and I find it very difficult to stop and make one conclusion and just go, and that's how it is. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's why the world's that way.
So are you generally are you sort of not very good at making decisions quickly?
No, I'm actually quite good at making quick decisions, and that's why I like my edits are quite complex. I think editing is the best example of me being quick at making a decision.
Right.
But it's the problem is when I make the decision, the way I explain my decision is not good. My girlfriend gets very sort of frustrated.
Can you give me an example of that?
Some people sort of with editing, I'm very quick at going cut. But before that, I will want to see all the footage.
Right.
And that's sort of a really good analogy for the way I see things. And I know it's not great. That sometimes doesn't serve me well, but sometimes it serves me really well because I've got this video where I've seen everything and I go, I know I've put every little bit in. Because I remember when I was younger and I went to university, there were a couple of things that I really walked away with, and one of them was it's seeing the universe in a blade of grass. And I love that phrase, you know, like, so I can't remember who said it, I don't know where it was from, but I remember just a documentary maker going, you know, when you watch a documentary and you walk away and you feel like you can look, the documentary is that blade of grass, you feel like you can see the world through it, and you're like, wow, I have pure clarity in that. Okay. And I love that feeling of clarity and that feeling of revelation and that moment of like, whoa, wow.
And so in terms of something, in terms of a manifestation of something, like you're saying, you like that idea. So I think one of your talents is that you like things to look a bit different. And so that example there, is that an example of, I mean, that's obviously not the universe.
No.
That blade of grass.
But that's the lovely way of seeing it, that in that blade of grass, you can see it. You can see every little strand that leads out of it, that leads to why it is the grass and why the world is that way and why the grass is the way it is. And you go, oh, yeah, that all makes sense now.
I didn't think we'd talk about grass this early.
No, yeah.
Fair enough, that's good.
But that was also a big influence on my life.
And that's why I'm not a Catholic.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's partly actually why I'm not religious, is because I do not, and it's not that I don't believe there's no God. What annoys me is the organised element of it, where they go, this is the way everything is, and you all need to adhere to those rules. And don't go looking beyond these rules because we've worked it out.
Yeah.
That's the bit that annoys me. And it's not that I go, fucking Muslims or bloody Catholics. I go, why don't you want me to look any further? Why do I have to stick to what's said here? Why would I not go, can we add some extra chapters to this? Because I think we've filled in some of these gaps. Why would you not do that?
I guess the counter-argument often is that idea of faith. And you have to, so it's how you look at faith. You can look at it one of two ways. You can go, okay, I'm jumping on board with faith.
Absolutely.
Or I'm going, well, that's not good enough, I'm afraid. I need a little bit more.
If your faith is rocked by new information, you do not have faith. So if new information comes along and you go, fucking hell, I'm doubting all this, good luck with your faith, because it's not a very good one. Do you know what I mean?
Two of each animal.
Yeah, exactly. But how did he get the mosquito? I don't...
Yeah, what have they done with all the dung?
Yeah, they just throw it over the side of the ship. That's a really simple one. It's questions like that, you see, that I think you haven't thought it through.
Yeah, shit.
And so, my RE teacher in school said he'll get an A, but he won't get an A star because he'll really annoy me. And
who said that to you?
My RE teacher, and she went, he's really challenging, but he won't get an A star because he's not. There are certain little things he does which just she goes, but he should get an A star.
Right.
He doesn't adhere to these rules. He didn't do these things. I write rambling 4-page essays, and she goes, this is brilliant, but none of it's about the subject I've set.
So were you?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. This is all over the place.
No. I think this is what people want, and to be honest, I don't really care what people want. I kind of just want to. This is my.
I'm saving some YouTubers.
This is my curiosity coming out here, to be honest. So going back to those teenage years, I think they're always interesting ones to look on. Formative, you could say that. Was there a kind of an age where you started to become more curious, or were you always kind of like that?
I always had parents who drove me to be that, which would be like, we'll go to the museum today, or we'll go and do this today. And I was always into it because I love my parents so much. Your
parents together?
No, divorced, but that was better.
When was that?
3, 4.
Oh,
so
right.
Separated and then got back together and then broke up.
Okay. Was it all quite amicable? Or?
Very amicable.
Right.
Like the judge who did the divorce was like, this is all extremely amicable, well done.
Right.
And that's what made it, and obviously everyone has their moments where they go, you're bloody dad, or, can't she just drop you for that time? Yeah. I don't know why I'm telling you that. But it's...
Does that lead, there's something like that, because obviously there's divorces all the time, and some are amicable, but some aren't. Do you think that in itself almost, when you're able to look back at it, you go, wow, that's a really mature way of dealing with what is a really upsetting situation for them as well as you.
But I think, my first school report was the teacher going, he's 5 going on 50.
Right.
So the teacher.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a child that hung out with adults because I was an only child. I'm very talkative, always wanted to be into things and always chatting to people. And there's a really good bit of footage that we've got in this family video. And Mum is filming me with one of her family friends, and his name's Alban. And I really loved him as a kid. He was just this really, he was someone who was willing to be playful and willing to go on my mental adventures with me. But also, when he first met me, I was clearly, there's a moment where he turns to me in this footage and I'm going, I want to play with you. So we're playing a board game and I want to play with you, Alban. And he goes, you're like a little limpet, mine, aren't you? And that, looking back, I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Why would you say that to a kid? But it's also really funny at the moment because I'm like, yeah, fair. That's absolutely true.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was always into things and always really into it. And I remember, there's also a funny moment where my dad took me to a museum and he was dating a new woman and she brought her child. And I was getting on really well with the kid, but I couldn't understand how the woman was treating her child. And so I was looking at them like, Dad, you don't treat me like this. This is really fucking weird. In the museum, my dad was just walking me over to the things and we were going, oh, that's interesting, look at that. And she was going, James, look. James, look. James, read this. And it was like she was setting him work, whereas my dad was just going, oh, look at that. That's quite interesting, isn't it? That's that was happened. Oh, do you see that bit? And I'm going, yeah, I see that bit over there.
Because I've got a thirst for knowledge.
But I've not been forced into it. And she's going, James, look, James. What? And his name was James. Oh. And I didn't just choose.
Felt like I was right there.
Yeah. And I remember turning to Dad and just being like, that's weird, isn't it? And he was a bit like, yeah, that is a bit strange.
But it sounds like you're having very adult conversations, like all the time.
Yeah, but I also think it gave me a false sense of being mature beyond my years, where maybe I wasn't that. And so I also got into this. I think every teenage boy gets into the point where they absolutely rate themselves.
Yeah.
And you need to go through that phase. So and you shouldn't be conscious of it. You should be. I was never an arsehole like Bam Margera or like, the Jackass guys. As much as I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be that like bad boy. I was never going to be that because that wasn't how I was.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't have that either. But I think there was like, I understand everything. I understand who I am. Yeah. And then you get to 21, 22, 23, and you go, shit.
No, I don't. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, what? I've got to leave university.
Yeah.
What, and get a what? A job.
A job.
Oh, doing what?
Yeah, exactly. But that was the interesting side for me. Was I started running in my second year of university for like TV and those sorts of things. So I never felt like I left and it was like, right, start the real world. It never struck me that I wouldn't freelance. And so I in university I'm freelancing because I have to do it alongside. So it felt like it's very natural progression.
That's interesting.
And it just went, and then people going, why are you freelancing? And I'm like, oh, I just love it. It's really great. I love this. People were offering me, Copper 90 who just started offered me like a full-time editor's role. I didn't really want to do full-time editing. And a couple of people offered me full-time roles and I was just really resistant to it. And I just didn't want to do that because I just didn't really feel that.
Is that something so I did freelancing briefly.
Yeah.
And I found I didn't like the insecurity of it.
Do you think had a lot of anxious, like, God, am I going to make the rent this month? For a little while.
Right.
And then that ends, that stops. And I guess
Why does that stop? Just because you get
your
your foot in the door?
Yeah, your foot's in the door and your rates go, so there were days where I was working for like 50 quid a day and I was 20, 21 or something and I had to work, I knew I had to work 12 days a month to get to the 600 to get to the rent. Mm-hmm. And so I had a few really kind people. I'd be like, I need 3 days. I need like a couple of extra days and I'll work this, I'll do that. But because I was so technically proficient, it was really handy to have me around. I wasn't just a runner. I could point a camera, I could edit.
Can you remember when you first made a video?
I probably still have this somewhere, but we've not transferred it to digital. My granddad bought a camera, and it was great because he had it for a little while, and so I was used to having this camera around all the time. And then my dad took it and went, I want to make videos of Laurence. Now, he was the only one with a kid at the time in the family, so he obviously took the camera and started making all these videos. And then one day I was like, I want the camera now. And so they went, okay, you can have the camera now. It's quite big. It was like it's like the size of an FS5.
Right.
So quite a big camera.
Solid,
but it wasn't heavy. It was plastic and a little bit cheap. It was JVC.
Yeah.
And
some proper tapes.
Yeah, proper tapes and, start, stop, and you had to sort of wait for it to roll up and like, but anyway, so then I got Action Men and cars and like all the accessories with them. And I said to my dad, like, I want to make Lawrence of Arabia but with Action Men. And he was like, okay, great. And I need someone to film it. So there's just this video of, and you can see my hands in it and I'm acting with it, but I'm doing the Action Man and the other Action Man. I've got another friend to play the other character. And I'm like, okay, so, and you can see me directing because dad's filming everything, which pissed me off. I was like, no, you film when I say action. And he's going, no, but he's a proud dad going, right. I want to film him.
Right, yeah, he wants the behind the scenes and the...
and I remember, there are moments where he's behind the camera clearly just giving commentary and he's just going, all right, Spielberg. And it's like, it's funny because he's a real piss taker and he doesn't undermine, but he's great for a sarcastic comment.
Right. So it's all revealing itself.
It's
now,
revealing
the sarcasm.
Yeah. And so I'm pushing these cars around, my friends pushing them in, and you can totally see me directing this thing and being like, okay, so the car's going to roll in, and then he gets out, and you've got to can we get the binoculars? Yeah, and he's looking through the binoculars, and then we'll cut to the angle of the binoculars so we can see him. We'll zoom in on Dr. X, who's over there, And
Lovely.
my dad's going, okay, brilliant. And you can see we're thinking, it's not hard, but we're thinking about the construction of how it...
The mise en scène.
Yeah, of how it gets put together. And then I got into editing when we got a PC, and Windows Movie Maker was the first thing. And then a friend introduced me to, his name's Jonathan. We made music together. We were called the C Major Bros.
Of course.
Because he came from a very musical family.
Bebop?
It was very, there was one called, there's one, never told anyone this. There's one called Future Convoy, which was just about
a song called, you made original songs?
Made an original song
Oh,
called
mate,
Future Convoy. And
you've got to react to that, surely.
Perform them in Beatles wigs. And because we wanted to be the Beatles, right? Obviously.
That's incredible.
And some of my friends were like, oh, that's fucking gay. But I was like, it's not gay, it's great. And we performed to our parents, and our parents just laughed afterwards. And my dad couldn't stop laughing. Like, that was what was really funny, was he was, so there's one parent who was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And my dad was just sat there going, like laughing openly at us. That's what I thought was so funny.
How did you take that? Were you sensitive towards that?
I was really upset,
yeah.
But not now looking back, I'm like, of course I was upset, but of course it was also hilarious. Like, why were you taking yourself so seriously?
Yeah.
I took myself in the same way as I still do, take myself so seriously, do you know? But like with no reason to.
That's amazing.
And so we did that. I don't know why we got into this. Oh, Jonathan. So we did that on. Did you ever have Windows 95 or Windows 97?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we did that on. Was it Wave? Just Wave. Is it like Waveform or something? It's called Waveform.
Okay.
And what we do.
I was busy playing Championship Manager.
I didn't know what that was.
Wow.
And what you could do is you could layer them, but once they were layered, it was fixed. So there was there's no layers. You can't. You could only see the waveform. So we lay down like a. And his sister would play the piano.
Of course.
She was like 6 at the time, and
really?
we were just going, all we need is some keys, so we go press that key then. And you'd hear him on the recording going, now. And like things like that. And then we'd loop it within Wave, and you could copy and paste the waves and all these sort of things. But once it's fixed, it's done, it's there. It's like you can't go back 10 steps because then you've got to re-record it all over.
So it's almost like rendered and exported in one go, and then you've just got a new block.
So everything is rendered and exported. Now add the other layer, rendered and exported, add the other layer, rendered and exported. And the desktop becomes full of every stage of it. So you can go back, but you can't really go back because then you've got to re-perform everything. Mm. And so that was like our first introduction to editing.
Yeah.
And it was fixed. You couldn't change it. So it became this really like, I imagine our parents watching and just being like, what the fuck are they doing? But not interrupting it. And that was our introduction. And then a program called EJ came out, which was basically making dance music.
Right.
And it was the first introduction to layering things and going, all right, so I can put like a house beat, 120 BPM. And that was, I loved house music.
Did you?
I bought a set of decks.
Right.
I had a set of decks. I was doing mates parties. Like, kids would come around and be like, teach me how to scratch. I'd be like, yeah, fucking sick.
Yeah.
Got a Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Get on my face.
Let me show you. And I had a samples record, which was just full of like hip hop samples and like a beats one on the other side. And
right. I didn't know that about you.
It was really, that was like a real passion. And my mum's partner, now husband, like, helped me buy my first set of decks, and like we upgraded and I learned how to wire things together, and that was like that practical side of things really like set me well. So I started with EJ, and it was beats, and then you'd download like add-on packs, and it would be like then it was like hi-hats and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I learned to layer, and I loved the construction of it, and zooming out and going, wow, look at it looked like bricks on top of each other. And I'd be like, oh well, the bassline's blue and this is red, and I became very coordinated with things, and that was so, I loved that. That was amazing. I remember there was a song that I made called "I Fucked My Teddy Bear," and it was.
There's your title. Not the SEO I was looking for, but.
And it was just this song where it was like the Siri voice. You could rent, and this was like generation 2 or 3 of EJ. The first one was just, it came with a load of things like a guy with an echo voice just going, house! And you could just like, or like, right. Things like that. It's like, You can edit this down to make me look terrible. And it would be like, a woman's voice, you put the woman in, man. And you remember like old school house is just like, disco, disco.
Yeah,
like those sorts of things.
Very stereotypical.
Yeah, and then the next one came the voice render, which was like you could type anything and make it say it, and it would be like. So I was like, right, what now? So we get this woman just going, I fucked my teddy bear, and it was but that's over like a, and it'd be like, I fucked my teddy bear, I fucked him in the head, and like,
oh my god,
and we were like, oh my god.
How old are you here?
11, 12, so it's still like it's still so.
Do you think it stands the test of time?
I think that in many ways, house music is dateless. Really, it's timeless.
Get their attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On that level, you're doing it without.
I've dropped some drum and bass shit as well.
Yeah,
so,
you do it. Yeah, I'm sure you can do it all. You often talk about thinking in a linear way.
Yeah.
And that triggered something in my mind when you were saying there that at 11, there's an understanding. My brain would work as. Right, block. This is a thing. This is a thing. This is a thing. This is a topic. Whereas it seems like quite early on you have an understanding that one thing can actually be layered. It's a lot more complex than that.
Yeah, and I would start to watch Top Gear and be like, I would look and be like, they've vignetted that, and then I would look up how to vignette something.
Right.
And one thing I loved on Top Gear was they used to have like a graduated lens where it would go like dark to light. And so all the skies would be dark to light, and you see if you watch my old videos, they're dark to light in the sky. Because I'd be like, I want it to look like Top Gear.
Right.
And then there was one video which I've never shown anyone, but my friend and I made Daniel and I made a video where we pretended to go to New York, but it was in Burton-on-Trent. What we did was we would just green screen, or not even green, like Chromakey out the buildings and Chromakey in a New York backdrop.
Right. And
it was clearly satire.
Yeah.
And we go to our local park and pretended it was Central Park, and we filmed the aeroplane through like a polystyrene window, made it look like we were on the plane, and we played like the wrong songs for New York. So we played like Man Down Under and things like that when we're going to New York. Right, it was like clear parody.
Yeah.
But it was such a great technical exercise to go, right, chroma key the sky out, New York skyline in there. And Daniel would sit and watch. But he said to me, you sit and you talk to yourself, and I go, chroma key got the, and he would take the piss and sit next to me and go, got the, what was the over in there, and that it became fun to do it together.
When you've got, because it sounds like on a few occasions you're doing these things with your mates.
Yeah.
Are you naturally kind of you're the guy on the keys?
Yeah.
Instead of the other guy.
I'll always go up.
Yeah,
but that was great because also then there's no YouTube, so YouTube wasn't around at that time. It was the beginning of YouTube, and no one was really interested in what we're doing. So really just friends watching.
And it's safe, yeah.
And it's very safe. There was no aspiration for it to blow up. There was that I never looked at it and went, I want the world to see that.
The 10,000 hours of something, whatever it is, can end up manifesting itself down the line because you're not even attracted towards something, you're just making your way forward, and you go, well, I don't want to go right, I'd rather go left and head it for a bit more. And so you end up getting where you kind of want to be. And
that was like quite unconscious for me. So it was quite a sort of, it wasn't something where I ever thought, I want to be an editor or I want to be this. It was just, I'm good at it, so I'll just keep doing it. And that, like you've really sort of caught me at a time where I'm a bit quieter, doing less work, rather than in the peak of like my work time now. So you've sort of caught me in a time where I'm a bit quieter, a bit more reflective. Look, I'm watching videos back and going, God, it was, at the time when EXO videos come out, everyone obviously in the comments goes, oh, this is amazing. But I'm watching back now and I'm like, oh. And I'm sort of in a moment in my life where I'm like, maybe I'm not as good as I'm going through that moment where you go, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Maybe I'm not as like, maybe I am really competent, but maybe I'm wasting my talent, or maybe I am really hard to work with, or I'm really I'm difficult in some ways, and like I'm just being really reflective on that because if you see it, don't ignore that, because when a video first comes out, the reaction on YouTube is always, wow, this is amazing, look how great it is.
Yeah, because it's new. And
you shouldn't put those people down. It's really good to have that positive feedback, and that someone loves and really reacts to it in such a way is great. I think there's no reason to put that down. But you should also, in your own right, be reflective and go, well, what do I think of this? And sometimes in the moment, you can't quite see it.
So you said there, I'm trying to be reflective on on what's going on, because you've got that little bit more space to think about stuff.
And so I'm sort of in the time where I'm, I'm like, am I as good as I thought? Like, am I really as competent or as...
So have you stepped towards that reflection, or do you think it's come to you?
I think a bit of both. Like, I sort of was looking for it, and then when you find it, maybe I was listening to an interview recently with someone, I can't remember who, but it's like you have to look for the place you don't want to go to and then go there and try and find that. And that was part of it. It was like, okay, well, let's go to that place then.
How do you feel in that space? Because you're in that right now, right?
Yeah, like. A bit uncomfortable and like very not naked's the word, but like very like when I wasn't dreading talking to you, but I was also like, God, are you catching me at the right time, or are you getting you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's really scary to be vulnerable and things not totally be going your way, or you're having to like, and also having maybe a bit of time to think about things. Like I remember leaving my job. I was doing night shifts and I was desperate to leave it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I left it. And you're then in this moment of, I couldn't do that anymore. And I need to back myself to go and find something better, or trust that something better is on its way.
Which it is.
But you're also, and it is always, if you're smart and switched on and you're looking for the opportunities and you're willing to work hard for those opportunities and you're ready to, even if you don't have the skills, go and try and find those skills and get them. But I felt very vulnerable, very worried. It's each day that you're not getting a job is a little punch in your gut of your confidence and your self-esteem. And I think when you feel, I'm speaking on my own personal feelings on these things, self-esteem is something that sort of ebbs and flows all the time, and so it's good to I think if you can look at it, if you can stay logical and back away from it sometimes, because naturally you're going to be in your own self-esteem all the time, but if you can back away from it in the long term, I think you'll always be okay.
So that's what meditation I find is very good for, is separating yourself from that for me. I don't know if everyone has that, but one thing that really stood out to me with what you said there was about mentally almost have to go through these hurdles or stages to get to that point.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this conversation. No, it's not. I want to know about your past to kind of understand you a little bit better, but me talking to you in an hour's time is going to be a new process that you're going into. Absolutely. Because you're constantly evolving, changing.
But that's part of it. That's always been part of it. And when I was going through really upsetting times in my life, I did find I was quite creative. Like I did find I could feed off that quite well, which was sort of opposite to what I wanted. I didn't want to be that kind of person. I didn't want to be that like tortured artist who was like, God, I need pain in order to make a great video.
Yeah.
And that can be quite a subconscious thing, because there's things that I want to be like, and then there's ways that I am, and those two can sometimes be at odds, because the people that I look up to, I don't necessarily think I'm like, and the people.
And who are those people?
I don't know. Like there's actors or directors that I like. I really like Spike Jonze, the director. Spike Jonze being the one who directed Jackass and all those kind of things, and did Being John Malkovich, things like that. And for me, he felt a bit like a precursor to Casey Neistat, where it was a bit gonzo journalistic feeling, but he also had a very beautiful side to some of the stuff he did. And there's one, I think it's called I Am Here. It's about a robot in LA who's going out and partying. Basically, it's the same as LA, but it's about robots. Right. And it's about that emotional side. And I really like Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah, I
have like a bit of a man crush on Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Partly because I think he's a bit funny looking, so it gives me hope. But also that I like his personality. I think he's quite quiet, reserved, but you can see he's got a glimmer in his eye that he does like some
sort of quiet confidence there, isn't
funny
there?
stuff.
Yeah. What's Spike Jonze like as a person? You're talking about his body of work.
Quite quiet, quite reserved. Right. I think quite sort of, but very quietly confident. And I would love to be more quietly confident, but not in a
that's interesting.
passive-aggressive way.
I would consider you as quite a confident person,
but not quietly confident. You consider me as someone who's like a bit of an extrovert, and I consider myself to almost be too extrovert. Like I don't necessarily always like myself on True News, but I see it as a bit of a character.
Yeah.
But it's funny because people actually people see that as truth. Or I guess the other side to that is that I understand the necessity of that, of embracing what I can do. You know what I mean?
Well,
but for me, what frustrates me is I know I have the capacity to do both, so I can do those things. But so to me, sometimes the punny sort of that side feels a bit lowest hanging fruit. Right. You get the instant reward from it. Do you know what I mean?
I would suggest that if you think of the formats that you're involved in as well, like that True News, that is ultimately, you know, you need to be reacting and also playing a role alongside Brian. Like if you're both doing the same role, it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be as funny. And you both enjoy that, and that's something you've built up. Or like the live streams as well. Like you can't go, I'm not talking yet because I'm waiting for a good one. Yeah. Like you have to, you know, you have to keep that all going.
Have to have that, you have to be willing to throw something out there and see if it works. Fly it up the flagpole and see if it flies. Like, and that's quite interesting in itself. But back to the reflection side of things, it was less that I was worried about the realization of being bad, because I don't think anyone is. You know, there's probably not a person in the world now who's bad at taking photos, because everyone's got a camera. So it sort of proves it. That doesn't mean that everyone should take photos. But what I mean by that is, so I'm not worried about being bad. I'm worried that the worry for me is less, oh God, you didn't shoot that well. It's more, why weren't you conscious that you weren't shooting it well?
Right.
Why didn't you see that in the moment? Why didn't you pick that up then? Was that down to poor planning? And I know, and we should speak about this experience actually. When we were going to do This Week in whatever, you and I went out and we did a shoot. And I sort of felt like I didn't want to do the shoot at all. But I felt like I was, so on XO, we had to do a shoot. We were doing like a pilot shoot for something called This Week in Football, but This Week in Sport. Yeah. And I didn't know what I wanted it to be, so I wanted to go out and find out what I could say and what I could do. But what I realised afterwards was I hadn't really said that to anyone else. So you and Craig, who was shooting it, were on the shoot thinking this is going to be the final piece. But in my mind, I had it was never going to be the final piece. Right. And I just hadn't told you that. But afterwards, I realised that reflected badly on me, because in the moment I'd been conscious enough to go, by the way, this is never going to go out. Like, this is just me fucking around, or like me working out what we can do with this, this, and this. And so why wasn't I conscious of that? Why didn't I just say that and take you on that? And that pissed me off, because afterwards you cringe and you go, fuck, if I'd said that and done that, then that would have been so different.
I think maybe there's an element there where I think you
crack
certainly...
another can.
Yeah,
Which one? Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, where's the cucumber one? I might give that a go.
That's Yoga Bunny.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Other drinks are available.
Yeah. Lemonade.
I think in that moment...
Sometimes cider.
Yeah. Sometimes ginger beer. Yeah. In that moment, so I would say that, I think that's fine. I think I understand. It's good that you reflect that way, that you go, oh, I should have communicated better. And it's good that you've got the humility to see that as well and take the responsibility yourself. I think a lot of people can be quick to just blame anything else, and so it's good. But
in the moment, I was embarrassed, and so I wasn't willing to. I feel so stupid that. And then when you're embarrassed, my mind's not going, "Fuck, you're embarrassed." My mind's going, "Fuck, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed." That's embarrassing.
So do you think that was down to in the moment where there was that bit of pressure being put on you, you not being able to kind of gather your thoughts and slow your mind down a little bit to go, no, hang on, this is how I want to do it.
Me going, this isn't the way I would do it, and I was unconsciously or in some way consciously just going, I don't want to do this, so I don't want to do it this way, so I'm gonna find a way, or my mind will find a way to not have it be that way. Right. And then I didn't do it that way. I didn't want it to.
So if you could have gone into that situation again where, just to give a bit more context with that, I think there was an idea that we want to get this video out a bit quicker. We want a quicker turnaround with it. We think like this is something that we can talk about trending topics, which would be a good different kind of show for XO. So that was the kind of idea, and the pressure that kind of came to it is like, can we go and film something on a Wednesday, get it out by Friday. Yeah. So if you could go back and do that again, what would you do?
Well, I guess it's similar to that wanting to watch all the footage before you edit. The same goes before. I wanted to think more about the format before I went out and shot it. And I hadn't really had time to go out and think about it and reflect. It was just on the Monday, I think we went, yeah, let's do that. Or even the week before, and I went, I don't feel prepared. I don't have enough time to do that.
In terms of being prepared, could you spin it on its head and go, let's be so prepared that I don't need to see all the footage because I know that
but when I say see all the footage, I mean in the same way then I want to fully prepare. So take the feeling prepared to do an edit and put that before shooting. So it's more that I want to see all the stories and I want to read things and discuss it more and go through the creative process before filming. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't see what we were going to shoot as something that had merit. So I thought, well, then we should just not shoot it.
Yeah.
And
I think also that feeling of when like the wheels are kind of getting out of control of it a bit as well, that can be really, that can be horrible.
It can be quite disempowering,
really
which is quite an unusual feeling to have when you're trying to shoot. When you're the one on camera, you want to feel like you have, at least you know it and you have control of it and you can go, I can see that in my mind's eye. I couldn't see it. And that's really frustrating for someone who can normally look and go, right, I've definitely got this. I know exactly where that's going to go.
But that's something that people have to deal with as well. Something that you think is, so first of all, I think when you were talking about the people that you like, I think everyone often likes people that they're not like because they go, oh, I haven't got this and that, and you have got this and that.
But that's what's funny is so what I also find really interesting is, and we should get into this a little bit. I hate it when people say that on the podcast. We should get into this because I'm really interested in it. The construction of identity and attaching yourself to I am this, therefore this, really frustrates me. So it's and when people try and label you, that also annoys me, which is why also sometimes on True News I feel a little bit sorry after we've made fun of someone because I'm like, oh, that person isn't really like that. It's that I realise after a while, oh, maybe I'm not that, so I don't have to act that way. And I can be adaptable. I can change, and I think that's one of like my strengths. Is I'm quite resilient and adaptable, and I will just keep going.
I would say from the very first time I met you to now, maybe it is just that we know each other better, and maybe it's not. But I feel like you did wear that kind of I'm a director on your sleeve. Yeah. Whereas I think now you're getting to a point where you're kind of, okay, that's something that I really love doing, but that's not the only personification of me as a person.
Yeah.
You're kind of broadening
maybe you
in
need that as a director. Maybe you need that as a director to be like, I'm a director. This is what I do. Like maybe you need that identity because it's a very strong identity and you need to wear it very strongly as a director. You cannot be wishy-washy, I don't think. And I think when I have been on shoots, it's therefore not looked as good as I want. Which is what I respect about Brian is he's got a very clear vision for what he wants and is very sort of wedded to that. Yeah. Which it works both ways. It can sometimes make it, and he and I both acknowledge this, we can be difficult to work with in our own way. But we love, this sounds weird, but we love each other for that. Yeah. And we understand that and I think it's very simple from the outside. People go, well, he fills in his gaps and he fills in his gaps and they complete each other. That's not the way it is. And like Brian has definitely adapted more to work with me, and I've definitely adapted more to work with Brian.
It's important to challenge each other, though. I think that's probably that's the greatest strength between the two of you, that you are willing to challenge each other
in different ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so having that vision, I think, is really important. Is what I would say.
I wanted to talk about, because we kind of have touched on it, and it's interesting how right at the start you're talking about how you wanted like a taste of everything. In your career, the initial sort of entry point was like hospital radio, but I guess before that we now found out that you were editing before that, DJing as well, making music.
DJing is really it's like I don't know,
like an audio editing.
Have you ever made a playlist for a party? Yeah. The pressure is on, James. Like there is, do I play 50 Cent at an 8? Yeah. Or do I
finish with that banger?
Yeah. Like, and what do I have in my back pocket in case the party goes a little dead?
Now 35.
You've got Cotton Eye Joe. Like there's good and bad to DJing, but what it does is it teaches you how to editorialize on the fly and read people and go, okay, people are reacting well to this, more of this.
Interesting.
And you editorialize as you go. You can react to a dance floor and you learn from other DJs. Some DJs I knew could not read a dance floor. They'll play a song for themselves and the dance floor clears, but they're there going,
Cotton Eye Joe again?
Yeah. And so I met a DJ who went, never be afraid to spin a record back and go, sorry guys, bang something else on. And people
halfway through the song?
Because if the dance floor is clearing and people are going, and they're looking at you, that's a reaction. So read the reaction and go, cool, great, spin back, done, next.
Right.
And so I would have, and I was lucky enough to be one of the, I know this is fucking boring, like there were probably people at home who were like, what the fuck?
That's what they've asked for. That's what they're getting.
I was lucky
Not boring, like you are being allowed to speak.
I was lucky enough to be one of the first generation of DJs who had a laptop. So it was, I DJ'd on just decks, but I then got a plug for a laptop, and it was an output where you could split over 2 decks. So I could split a left and a right channel, and one were going to one side and one were going. So I had 4 decks essentially. And what I'd do is I DJ on the 2 decks, and I keep one deck with just bangers. 5 or 6 of them.
Right.
And
your safety deck.
Basically, yeah. That's a really nice way of putting it. And if a song went on that people didn't like, I'd just go, cool, don't worry about it. Bang, banger. And everyone's back. And it taught you to editorialize and read and work out what people liked. And that became really important in the editing process because I could, as I went, go, okay, I understand, I'm seeing how this forms.
You're not getting that feedback though.
No, but I'm giving myself the feedback and I can react to the feedback. So it was about working out how the arc of a night went. I can then put that into 10 minutes. So I'd DJ for 5-6 hours and I'd work out at midnight I need to have them peak there. But if it goes on till 3, I need to have 3 more hours of really good songs.
Right.
So then you take that and you crunch that down and put that into 10 minutes. And you go, I need that to...
Give me just... what is the song that you like? It had to be played. It was my safety song, and the floor will be filled.
There are some big songs in my generation.
You can only have one.
Okay, then there are. So I also had 2 different sets of friends. I had friends who liked Offspring and Blink-182, and Linkin Park,
right,
and friends who liked hip hop,
and
sort of Nelly,
yeah,
and then I also have mainstream parties.
Okay.
So mainstream parties, Cascada every time we touch, gets the kids on the dance floor, and the parents go,
yeah, and even if you can't dance, you can just go,
because every time, and everyone's like, fucking hell, and I remember
smashing it out and bring it back,
yeah, and it was amazing, and I remember it was a party of teenagers, and one of the girls it was her party, they were having this great night, but I put Cascada on, and she came over and she went, "You're a real DJ," and I was like, I am. And
you're like, and the next song was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
that was the Birdie song. Yeah. I had that on record. Yeah. So and
just trying to get Wigfield off.
But that was what it was. It was like I remember just thinking like, yeah, I'm a real DJ. Like this is fucking sick.
That's cool.
And she went, and you look like one too. And I was like, yeah, wicked. Yeah, I'm fucking.
Kango hat.
I'm
backwards.
Tall Paul. Like I
smashing shots of vodka in your eye
back into my eyes. And I wanted to be like Tiesto and all those sorts of DJs. And he was just getting big at that time.
Right.
And then there was Linkin Park and Jay-Z, Numb Encore.
Sure.
Big.
Bit of both, innit?
Iconic
Mix
sounding as well. So what I'd do
good
is...
drop as well, good intro.
I'd wait for the song to finish and everyone's going, oh... And there's sort of a low mumble of like, oh, he must have not started the next record. And then it'll go, do-do-do-do. And I'd be like... And everyone's like, oh! Yeah. And then you go, yeah, fucking dickhead.
Yeah. You click the dry ice machine.
Yeah, exactly. And out it comes, yeah. And genuinely, that's... So you sort of pick that up as well. And then the other one was, I guess... like Sum 41 or something like that, like a sort of the faster we're falling.
Radio DJ, amazing. Editor, director, DJ, presenting, hospital radio right at the start of it. And then what you said right at the start of this interview, that you get excited about certain things and then you go off there and you want a taste of everything. Yeah. If you had to just do one of those forever and you've got to... It's directing. Yeah. So it's not being in front of camera.
No.
It's not being in the trenches editing it.
No, definitely not. I really don't enjoy editing.
Right.
Or after a while I don't. Sometimes I really love it. When it goes well, when I can do the whole process of it and do it properly, when it's not rushed, I love it. It's fantastic. Looking through the footage, going, yeah, that bit's good, stick that on a timeline, that bit's good, get that in there. And then watching and moving bits and manipulating how that works and getting into that mindset of it. And the way you look at clips, and you probably have this, changes, and the way you look at video changes, and you start to think, you start to see how you can move things around. You start to watch other people's documentaries and see what you've done there. But it also, when you get into the editing, it can become a bit antisocial. Your brain, the way that your brain changes and the way that your brain puts things together, I almost struggle to talk sometimes, or I'd be like, okay,
Hours just go. Your hunger goes. Like
and you get very embedded in it, and like your mind, you begin to start thinking of things, and you have to bring it all together. And I really enjoy that, but I'd much rather not do that forever.
And I guess in terms of the creative process and having kind of power over that, the source of it is the directing, because you're capturing it right at that moment.
Apart from when we're on camera, which on a YouTube video, you are directing your own video, which is like, that's, we are our own director. So that's good.
So let's talk about YouTube then. In terms of someone who is a director, or maybe wants to go on and do those bigger things, which I'd like to talk about as well. We should get into that. Being in YouTube, being in front of camera within YouTube, are there moments where you want to step away from that? And why is that? Do you enjoy presenting?
I enjoy it. I mean, it's something that I feel...
Because initially there was the radio aspect of it. There were ambitions to be...
Chris Moyles.
To be Chris Moyles.
Chris Moyles or Chris Moyles.
So why did you want to be Chris Moyles?
He had full control. He was the one who was calling the shots. He was the one who went, this is where the show's going now, and I'm going to do this, and this is going to be funny, and I'm going to be the one who delivers the punchlines on time. I've got the timing, I've got these things, I've got the buttons. And it's like live directing. You're pushing all the faders, I would watch on the webcam and be like, wow, look at that is full control. I had a friend called Matt at the hospital radio, and we did Matt and Mac on a Thursday night.
Nice.
Thursday was like the big day in hospital radio.
Right.
Because on the weekend...
Giving it up for the weekend.
Yeah, basically. And also Friday...
Did you have a radio voice? Was there a difference to the timbre?
I always sort of rated my own voice a little bit too much, but over time I realised I had too much high and I needed to take a little bit lower.
I find that all of that stuff fascinating. I had audition for Heart Radio.
Right.
I never stepped into
You'd be so good at that,
though,
by the way. You'd be so good
you.
for that. Yeah.
But I stepped into
it's James at the graveyard shift. Hey guys, in the next half hour, we're going to be going to the news. We're going to be going to the travel as well. Yeah. Let me know where you've woken up and why you're going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. Coming up to 11 now. What snacks are you eating? Let us know on 0800 555.
It's just one of those days out in London today. The weather's a little bit gross. Let me know what you're doing in this afternoon.
So true. Yeah. But I stepped into that. Totally oblivious of the nuances of a radio disc jockey.
Yeah.
Because they were telling me that, so Heart Radio, for example, is for 25 to 45-year-old women. That's the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on Magic, you're just calming people down. They're probably over 50 years old and they just want to have some smooth classics.
You're also a generic voice. You're just, you are there to be, you're not, they'll hear the name and they'll go, it's Darren James, lovely. I love Darren James. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Darren James normally plays.
Now there is zero personality in a lot of these radio shows. Yeah. That's why I only say someone like James O'Brien, because that is a talk show. He's been able to get it across, but otherwise, I think Greg James is great. He has his own little bits and pieces. Johnny Vaughan is still the king for me. I love Johnny Vaughan, and One for the Weekend is like a lot of it is stolen.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that kind of format. And Vaughan and Moyles are very similar in that sense.
Very true, very true.
And they both clearly look up to or take bits from the American DJs who've got their shit down, Howard Stern-esque sort of.
But I would imagine that, so having found that kind of excitement over something like that.
Yeah, I loved it.
So in 3-4 years' time, do you still see yourself in front of camera, or do you want to kind of get away from that? Or is it not as simple as that?
It depends, I guess, how well paid is it? I suppose I enjoy it. I love doing the kickoff with Brian. I love doing all the stuff that we do because that's a passion project, and that's what's really we're lucky. We are doing a passion project. It's something that is actually just our job.
Yeah.
But the reason I don't want to be in front of camera, I enjoy the construction and I enjoy the theory behind it, and you can probably do that in presenting. And I really enjoy picking up other tips from presenters, but I also feel still like the presenter is not. They're not coming up with everything on it. They're not coming up with the essence of the show. They're not doing that blade of grass moment. They are the one that is the blade of grass, and I want to be the one holding that. And going, see, so
I think that is a great thing about YouTube now is that can give. So for someone who was in TV and has then moved to online, what you saw is you got in there and you go, oh, I want to be a presenter. I want to be a sports presenter. You watch sports presenters. There's an element of of them being able to take control in terms of where they drive that conversation, but ultimately they've got to talk about the key points. Yeah. The rest of it is an auto cue that they're reading. Yeah. You then move to, say, daytime television. The bulk of it is reading, reading something, cue cards, whatever.
Auto.
That's been given to you.
Yeah.
The best in the business, and they have been for 20 odd years. Obviously, they're going through difficulties right now. But Ant and Dec write everything.
Say Holly and Phil. So.
Ant and Dec write everything. And if you say Saturday Night Takeaway, that is their show that they exec produce. They're trying to get across their feelings on entertainment and how they can get that across. And you see that in that show, and that's why it's been so successful.
Absolutely.
For up and coming presenters, so for me, I like being in front of camera, not because I'm in front of camera, but because I get to have the conversation. I get to be a part of it. For me, it's like the fear of missing out. That's what I don't. That's why that's what drives me to be a part of it. I want to be able to go to amazing places. I think that's something we definitely connect on when it comes to XO. We'd love to go all over the place because you get to kind of cash in all of that stuff and get it as well.
Well, that's someone else I love, Anthony Bourdain. So the chef, dead now obviously, but he was great at that. Going to a place and capturing something and making you feel like you're there. And
that's the good thing I think about YouTube, that I wonder if it's something that you should explore on your own terms for your own channel, because it's, as people often talk about, that's something that you haven't wanted to go, a route you haven't wanted to go down yet in terms of having your own channel and uploading on there regularly.
I see the benefit of it more and more, but I'd almost want to do it on my own terms or do it on my own. I wouldn't want to be beholden to uploading regularly or play that game of it. I don't really want to do YouTube like a game. And what can often annoy me is people go, you won't get far if you don't play the game. And I'm like, it depends where I want to end up, really.
Well, that's where I kind of wanted to go with YouTube now, because I think what's interesting is the lifespan of YouTube sees trends come and go, and that's fine. And like anything, when something becomes popular, it then becomes saturated.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, that saturation leads to noise. And so then if you want to cut through from that noise, what is a nice thing I think about life is it comes back to like, how can you cut through? Can you offer something different? I hope. And do you think YouTube is, do you think you can do that in YouTube even now?
Yeah, I think you can, because there's, the other part of university that I really loved was just the theory and taking a theory and applying it to something. And I did media and comms and got a first. I was really lucky. And I got a first mainly because I was part of a good group that did a good documentary, which kept my grade fairly good. But what I really enjoyed was taking theory and then applying it to things. And one of the great theorists that I really still love is Marshall McLuhan, who is like a social. He predicted the internet. He predicted all these things and how technology would evolve. And go and read it; it's amazing. And there's a book which is like really cheap. It's a paperback book. It's called The Medium is the Message. There's one thing where he talks about he has 4 laws of media, and you can apply them to anything. And he calls them, in a very broad sense, he calls everything media. So the couch is a medium. Wood and these blinds are a medium. Bricks are the medium of a house. The house then becomes a medium. And it's very interesting to analyze the world in that way, like because he talks about the subconscious impact and the impact that you can only really predict and find through doing. So he talks about, so for instance, if this couch was covered in leather, we would sit on it differently. That is something about the medium of couch, which
or we would feel differently sitting on it.
You'd feel sweaty or you'd feel whatever. But that's a very subtle subconscious thing that we'd probably still sit on it, but we'd feel different. So the interview might be different in some way, but we'd only really be able to see that afterwards. Yeah. So anyway, there's 4 laws, but one of them talks about ubiquity, and it talks about when something is everywhere, what then happens? What happens to the medium? And I think that's what YouTube is. YouTube's an accelerated version of things coming to ubiquity, having a life cycle, and going through that life cycle. And we can actively observe those life cycles going on. And it's happening globally on YouTube all the time.
And they're getting tighter and tighter, it feels like.
They feel that way because as we learn about those life cycles, I guess people accelerate them because they go, well, if I accelerate this, I can make more money in the short term, all these kind of things, because it's sort of driven by capitalism, but it's not really driven by capitalism. Yeah. So there's that, and it's that ubiquity that I find fascinating, because one thing I feel I'm really good at is watching another person's video. You know this, you sat with me when we watch videos together, picking it apart and going, I'd have done that better, I've done that better, I've done that better. And I enjoy that. I enjoy going, here's how we can improve that. Here's how we can take that a step further. The point is, the ubiquity is a good thing in some ways because it means it's great. But at some point, that ubiquity will almost naturally lead on to a new format because other people will find something to subvert that ubiquity.
Right.
Not to get too intellectual.
No, but ultimately you're saying that everything evolves. Like you said with that initial medium of this, with it being leather, it would be different. Yeah. With one trend, you wouldn't get to this great new trend without this trend in between. If you take that out, then you would have gone left and gone down a different road.
And we wouldn't have the internet in the way that we know it if we hadn't have had TV. We wouldn't have had TV if we hadn't have had books. All these kind of things, they all lead on to each other. And what's fascinating about it is, because when the internet came along, it was quite fresh. The only thing that we really had before that was like the internet was TV.
Yeah.
So we took the laws that TV had given us and put them onto the internet, and we're quite naive about the internet. And now it goes the other way. So there'll be something else that comes along. We'll take the laws of the internet and some of the mobile phones and laptops, and we only know the way that it will work after it started working. It's very difficult to predict and look ahead as humans. But this Malcolm McLuhan guy predicted everything that's going on the internet. The Discord, not the app, the lack of organisation, ideas clashing, people getting angry, people not being able to communicate well, all these kind of things, and then people taking advantage of that.
So then if I was going to ask you then, where do you see it going? Where do you see YouTube going? Do you feel like you can't kind of answer where you see that
No,
going?
I think you probably can. I just think that you have to, you also have to acknowledge that it's within your own bubble. So what I find funny about YouTubers is YouTubers talk in an all-encompassing way about YouTube. Well, they actually mean my pocket of YouTube. They mean in my pocket of YouTube, I know it's going to be this way. But YouTubers think in a sense of, I am YouTube. Because when you're on the platform, it makes you feel like you are all that exists. You're in your own little bubble. You're in your own little, you've subscribed to these things, you've subscribed to that. And the idea that the sidebar will take you off on some magical journey is an illusion.
Yeah.
Because it is something they've picked for you. Do you know what I mean? Like we had the YouPorn guy on, or the Crazy Taxi guy, whatever he was called. Not Crazy Taxi. Whatever it is. Fake Taxi. Right? And
so please don't get quiet.
Yeah. And he said, and he was saying how they basically engineered that sidebar to work out that if you're wanking to this video, you're going to enjoy wanking to these videos.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, and it's the same with YouTube. Yeah. If you're mentally masturbating to this video, you're going to enjoy mentally masturbating to these 3 videos.
Yeah, to the infuriation of a lot of people, because you're going, get off my recommended.
Yeah, exactly. So and people know how to game the system. So it's fast. So we can see where it's going to go, and the good people or the interesting people are probably the ones who study it and I can see where it's going to go. But we also have to acknowledge those creators and these young creators, some of them very cynical, are the ones shaping that. But the real problem is we talk about it in a way as if it's like this magical fairy, when actually we've got the control. We've got that. We are the ones that can shape where it goes. True,
but I guess the problem is that they're so based upon human feelings and things that go
and financial gain.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
These feelings give me financial gain. If I talk about sadness, depression, extreme happiness, or extreme humiliation, I will make money. So you're rewarded by those things.
So the bits in between, there's no money in that then?
The sort of the boring interviews, long personal stories that no one gives a fuck about. No, James.
Fuck's sake. Okay.
So you can see where it's going to go.
So then how do you feel you fit within YouTube? Do you see yourself what are your ambitions long term? Where do you want to go? Do you want to get away from YouTube so that you step into concentrating on films? I know you always talk about documentaries. Or
documentaries, but they work on YouTube. They do work. It's just that there's not many people who make them. Shane Dawson is making documentaries, but salacious documentaries,
Got to play the game, Loz.
Got to play. I guess I've also found that YouTube people assume that the platform works by the framework that's set out. So it's like you will get on YouTube, you will make a channel, the channel will blow up, you will make money from said channel, done. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works that way, and there are YouTubers. other times you make a channel, you get to 100K, and then a TV show comes along and goes, you're much better if we give you however much money, you come and make it with us. That works great.
Yep.
There's other ways, and that's always been the way my life has been, is like people have seen me on one thing and gone, cool, I'll do that. That's the way that Brian and I started the podcast. It's the way I did podcasting before. It's the way I worked my way up.
You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I am very ambitious. I have drive. I want to be successful. I worry about not being successful in whatever form that might be. When I look at you, I feel like...
Oh, I can do that.
No, absolutely not. No, when I look at you, I feel like you've totally deserved it, every success that's coming your way. But it's kind of, I saw you like, oh, you're a blogger, but you were good at that, and so you then get the opportunity. Exactly what you've just said, basically. The TFR thing came. You clearly shone through as a presenter in comparison to the other people that are on that platform. Again, because of your talent, so you deserve every success you get. You then move on to what you've been doing with Brian, and then XO as well. What I'm interested is that, and maybe that's part of that the reflection that you're talking about, is like you're now in this moment where you've got a new adventure coming, haven't you? Like, are you generally able to feel settled and calm about what's on its way, or do you get a little bit anxious about it working out, you continuing to succeed?
Calmer the older I get, I guess, right? Like because you sort of see those patterns and you know those feelings, and you start to think, how can I manage that cycle of the feelings? So are you
with all that you've said, are you wary of going, I want to do that?
No, like I'm absolutely great. What's really weird is some people in my family have like a phrase where they go, that's like such a Laurence thing to happen, because one day I'll be going, God, I wish like with Adidas, I was saying to my cousin, like, I really wish I could work with Adidas. 2 weeks later I had a call from Adidas, but that was what was really funny about it. Like, some people go to speak it into existence. It doesn't work for everyone always in the same way. It might work in different ways.
I was watching a really interesting video with Jordan Belfort.
Right.
The Wolf of Wall Street. And he was saying how that's bullshit. If you go visualize it, think it, even say it out loud, it'll happen. That's not how it works. How it works is you face it. The analogy used was iron filings and a magnet. If your magnet is facing over there, you're not going to attract all the things that you want. And even if you're facing it, it's not going to attract all the things you want. You have to move towards it. And then at some point, vroom, it'll kind of come to you, and you can go, I was just lucky and it was destiny.
Well, that's why I do feel quite lucky, and I do feel like and I'm not unaware of like my sort of level of white privilege or like middle class privilege. Where
I think you're very aware of that.
No, it's not. I'm very aware of it. That's a really good point. I'm very aware of my level of that privilege, and also just the fact there are probably people who watch me and go, and there are older people who were currently in control at that time who went, he sort of fits it. You know what I mean? Like, white, presenter, well spoken, little bit funny, cool, let's do it. And that worked.
But then you've moved into a whole world where, and so I've missed out. I've been a bit further behind you in some of those opportunities. For me, I went into a huge agency who wanted to see me, and they said, we think you're really good. We're not going to sign you though, because you need to get something, and then we can probably work with you.
Thanks.
But then he went, but it is going to be tough for you. Because, and I went, well...
Why have you called this meeting? What
am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're white, straight, middle class.
Yeah.
And you haven't got an accent.
Yeah.
And all those things which were great for the first 70 years of
my life
of media. Now it's like you need to be something a little bit different which is deserved and understood. But you end up like, I'm not cool enough because I'm white and straight and all those things. Yeah.
But you are, but then there's other aspects to it as well. And maybe we are just at the right point where I no longer really want to be cool. I don't, like, not cool in the sense of like, I want to be...
Chase the cool.
Yeah. I want to be like, I want to be happy in my own right, not cool in my own right.
Do you know what I would say as well in terms of the things that have worked out for you? What I'm feeling more and more is, God, this horrific phrase just came into my head. Skills pay the bills.
Oh, absolutely.
But so the reason I say that horrific phrase is what I'm realising more and more is, yeah, I really want to do this, or yeah, I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Or like, so if you then got that conversation with someone, like we both get a lot of messages from people going, I really want to be able to be in sports media, this is my dream, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Too bloody many, yeah. Stop writing.
What gets you somewhere is having the skills that allow that person that's going to employ you, it either makes their life easier or it allows you to do the job better than other people.
Absolutely.
And so for you, yes, it's so Laurence because it's worked out, but you speak really well. You know, and the reason you do that is because of the radio aspect of it, because of understanding of media, because of the podcast. You're great at that. There's a reason why Brian's gone to you. He's gone to you because you are able to talk to all different kinds of people.
Prince or pauper, some people say.
But you can find that in different people. And you develop that by, like you were saying earlier, all those things along the way by being open-minded. And so,
but I do think that works.
But the fact that even now you've got a little bit more time and you're going, right, okay, I want more skills, I want more knowledge, I want to do those different courses. Other people might be kind of finding different ways to spend their time. I think that's a really impressive thing that you've naturally got, that you like learning new things and skills.
There was a really good during was it the last Olympics or the Olympics before? There was a really good ad campaign by Nike. Or Nike as I call them, and they ran. Do you say bikey? So they ran an ad campaign which was about greatness, and it was about how greatness was not like something that's built in. It's something that is, you know, it's in everyone. Was the whole point of it, and that's what annoyed me for a very long time about media and those things. Was that people going, well, this person's exceptional. Like this person's got this very unique gift that no one else really has.
Yeah. And
that annoyed me because to me, I witnessed it from both sides, where I had been told I was very exceptional as a child,
right.
But I'd also then gone, yeah, but I fucking worked hard for this. So stop telling me that I have done that. And it also then annoyed me because I have a great sense of injustice when something bad happens. And I was seeing it happen to friends of mine who were not getting the opportunity. And sometimes it would lead me to feel guilty that I got opportunities that I actually thought, well, actually that guy's really good at it, but you've looked at me because I was louder or I was this thing or I was that thing, and I've got it. I don't feel like I deserved it in the same way, and that really annoyed me.
When I meet these different people, I think about how do I describe them, and then I want to explore that. And I think
How do you describe?
Well, so one word that I think a lot of people describe you is that word talented. And I was intrigued to know, how do you feel about being called talented?
That's a good question. I think if it's in a sentence where they go, God, he's talented, he's made the most of it, and that's really good, isn't it? I think there have been times in my life where, because there's sort of a mercurial value to some of the stuff or some of the way that I work, I see myself as talented, but not wasting it, but talented, but sort of, I told you caught me at a dark moment, like, talented. I
don't know if it's dark, mate.
It's not dark, but it's obviously quite honest. Because
that's good.
Actually, there's a lot online where I'm imagining like some people who quite like me watching this and going, "Oh, the fuck, he isn't the person I thought he was."
Well, no. See, that's also something I wanted to kind of get from you today. Knowing you is that your understanding of weakness, but you don't want to tolerate it for too long, and so you're quite hard on yourself in that sense.
Yeah.
But then that's that. So if on camera, I think that can lead to you sometimes not letting those things come out.
Sure, yeah.
Because you see it as weaknesses. I don't think it is weakness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, it also sort of, it's just not something I've ever found particularly easy to talk about, is like those deficiencies, or it's not something I dwell on. So it's not something I do, if it's something I realise, I'm not always
You don't wallow. I don't think you don't wallow at all. So,
not really.
But I think people have natural dips. So I think when someone has a dip, some people go woof.
Yeah.
I think you go like that, go nope, not having it. No.
And sometimes you will see it. Like sometimes I'll be very like extremely sarcastic for a day, or like because obviously it affects everyone's actions in some way. But I really regret those days where it's like, and I feel so stupid and embarrassed about.
But
those days.
Even there with your hand there, you're jolting your hand out.
Oh yeah, I'm saying I'll get it done.
No, but you're going, no, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a weakness. I think that's a real strength, that you can go, okay, what's the action that's going to make my life better, me feel a little bit better, me like lift up my self-esteem or whatever, or how I value, or just get through the day and have a deep breath at the end of it and feel better.
But that's why I dislike those people who go, you are this. And then they just leave it there and they kind of box you in. That really annoys me. It doesn't give me that hope or that.
But you can acknowledge weakness.
I can absolutely acknowledge weakness, but then I guess what I've had some relationships in my life where when I have admitted weakness, those people have then used that weakness to get the upper hand. And then I never like feeling like there's an upper hand.
Yes.
Even if I feel like I have the upper hand, I'll feel guilty about it. And I get that I'm a person who's very sarcastic. Sarcasm gives you the upper hand. I get I'm someone who's like quite quick at coming back. That will give you the upper hand. But very often you'll never really find that I'll use that on a person I like or feel sorry for.
Absolutely.
You'll always find it will be to cut the legs out from under the person who is the arsehole.
Yeah.
And I'll understand. You'll also find there are a lot of videos where I will completely cut my own legs out and go, I'm the butt of the joke here.
Yeah.
But some people cannot understand that because they would not do that themselves.
True. The other thing I notice in you is I think you really value an earnest person.
Absolutely.
But you see huge value in that.
Yeah.
Huge value in that. And I think that's interesting. It's something that people wouldn't see in you. And I certainly was like that with you at the start. I was like, oh wow, he's fucking really sarcastic like all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you, as time goes on and you spend enough time with anyone, there are different layers to people. And I found that really interesting, that someone who was, because that was the moment for me, I was like, okay, sarcastic, I get that, so I've got to be on my toes, which is fun, which is huge fun.
It's a bit of fun.
But also I think like the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you really show care for people who are just kind people.
Like, there's something about that, like I just really love unperformative people who just aren't performing, and like that's why I like people like Flav on your podcast. Obviously there's an element that he's performing and he does play up to certain things, but I don't feel like he's performing in a sense. And
there's strength in that.
Absolutely, and that's just something that my mind just doesn't work that way. Yeah, but I massively respect that.
Yeah.
And I love feeling that way where I'm not performing. I'm just doing. There's something really empowering and happy in that place. Maybe
directing is that a space where you can actually be like that.
And I really feel that way, and I feel that, and
because the actors aren't.
That's why I love the process and the honesty of the process, and that the process of putting a video together will keep you honest, because if you don't prepare for the video, then it will not be shot well. And my problem is that actually I'm really good at thinking it on my feet and moving things. So even if we haven't prepared properly, I'll go. And Brian knows that, and a lot of people have noticed that. Like on set, I'll be very good at working with what we've got.
Yeah.
And just going, cool. Well, let's try this then. And that partly comes down to the years of trying to think how to say it. It's preparing to be able to work in that environment. So I prepare myself to be able to go and just do it off the cuff. And so that's my element of preparation. What I've learned more recently is not everyone can do that or can ride with that in the same way. So it makes some people feel incredibly uncomfortable when they'll see it as flying by the seat of their pants, whereas I feel perfectly comfortable there.
Do you know what I think? I think that's the difference between a producer and a director. I think a producer is a bigger part of the okay, how is everyone feeling here?
Mm-hmm.
How is the atmosphere in the room, and how can we make that as good as possible?
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if you've got more of a director's mind, then you're more relaxed in that moment.
You're also thinking of the end product in a different way. So the producer is thinking of the immediate product to be able to make the environment for the director to thrive. The director's thinking of his end product, so it's almost a sociopathic way of going, how can I get the best out of these people and bend them to my will? Or I never think in that way, but you get what I mean. How can I make this actor do what I want him to do? Or how can I make this YouTuber do what I want them to do?
What keeps you up at night?
There's a bloody alarm next door.
Got to start. Alexa.
Yeah. Keeps me up at night.
And be honest with me. I know you don't like it, but...
No, I'm just trying to think. At the moment, in this current state, it's the anxiety of will I make it to where I want to make it, and that worry, and that not feeling of quicksand, but that feeling of have I done enough to deserve? Do I feel deserving of where I am right now? And the honest answer is no, I don't feel deserving. I've not really spoken about the whole Arsenal fan TV thing with anyone because I've sort of saved it for Brian's podcast. We've not really explored it, and we will at some point in some depth, because
Yeah, I thought about, do I ask about that? And I didn't feel like I needed to be honest.
But what I found interesting about it was the benefit, it blindsided me, first of all. But in some ways, it came at a time where I was already being quite reflective. And I remember filming the video with Brian, which sort of triggered Robbie and
because I think I texted you like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Because I'd watched Blood Brothers and I found it hilarious, if I'm honest.
And we watched a clip together and we were laughing.
It was funny. It was funny.
And you can't deliver something to the world and then go, you've got to watch it like this.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That can't be the way it goes. And that's why I'm talking about that sense of awareness when you're making something and having that sense of awareness. And I'm not saying... And
I've got to say, as I'm watching that, I laughed watching it. And if that wasn't the aim of that documentary, I didn't get it. If it was supposed to be dead serious, if I was supposed to like fall in love with the guys after that, and I know the guys anyway, but if I was supposed to fall in love with you after that, that's not what happened. I found it funny.
So you've opened up like something there that hadn't really... It's occurred to me, but I didn't really know how to say it, and now I do. What frustrates me most about the situation that happened with Robbie and DT and Troops and all these guys, because they've all done indirect things on social media to me, right?
Oh, have they?
Which I didn't, was that I like earnest people, and I look at them and I go, you're earnest. Like, DT, you're a person who takes yourself very seriously, and I want, like, he is earnest in a way. There are cynical sides to DT, but there's also a very earnest side which thinks he is doing the best for Arsenal.
Right.
And the best for his club. And that he is the face and the best thing that can represent that. And the same with Troops. Troops is representing a set of people who are Arsenal fans, but also people who are less represented anyway. And Robbie's the same. And I love that earnest idea and that message. So when he then turned a very long time ago on me and then turned on me again recently, I remember just feeling a bit disappointed and being like, oh, you've misinterpreted what I've been trying to do there. And it's not, maybe I wasn't clear enough.
Were you hurt?
No, because I don't really care. But
I thought that might be the answer.
But I was annoyed. Like I was not to a life devastating degree. Just sort of like no. Like that was what got to me. Was that. And then what was really interesting about that was, and what was good about that process was the amount of people in the comments that went, yeah, Laurence is a little rat, or like, yeah, Laurence is a snidey little cunt, or all these sorts of things. And I remember thinking, that's how you see me, like, wow, that's not my intention. I remember thinking, no, you got me wrong. Like,
I remember you saying to me that, oh, at least like we can now have the conversation about this.
Yeah. What was interesting about that was then I was already in a moment of reflection, and I'd already had things that I can't really talk about because we're still in the process of working things out. But a lot of things in business, I mean, a lot of things where it had been sort of like stuff hadn't quite gone the way that I wanted it to. And so I was reflecting on that, and then that happened, and I was a bit like, all right, well, fair enough. I'll approach this as well then, and faced it.
Yeah.
And it just sort of. I was in the comments and I was like, right, is that how people see me? Like, okay, I didn't realise that, and I realise not everyone's going to like you, but I also, it's not so much I want to be liked; it's that I want to be understood.
Yeah.
And that was what annoyed me about it, was I was misunderstood in what was happening there. And I get that actually, like, part of Robbie's qualm was that I had maybe misunderstood what he was trying to do, but I never felt like that was the case, and so I felt a bit let down by the whole process of that.
I think also, to be fair, there was a clear distinction that it was at you in a video and an item within that video.
Was made very clear. It was never about Brian.
Yeah.
And I just want to make this absolutely clear. I have a lot of respect for Brian.
And so then it is a direct attack at you.
Yeah.
Because if you watch that video back again, because I did watch it back again, I think, oh, was he that bad? You don't actually say anything, really.
And that's what's funny about that video, and that's what's funny about that triggering in a way. And we'll get into that in the future.
Yeah, you did that with Brian.
But I guess I was never really talking about the Arsenal thing. I was really talking about the revelations that fell out of the Arsenal thing. And it was actually about having people go, yeah, that guy's a cunt. Because that got that upset.
Yeah, it should.
it wasn't Robbie saying I'm a cunt. It was other people in the comments doing it. I couldn't care less what someone who disagrees with me, ignores me, and then decides to lie about me says. I could care less about whether the audience that is watching me sees me the way that I want to be seen.
Yeah.
Because it's not even so much about me being like, well, I want to be seen as the good guy. It's then the frustration is me as a director and a presenter going, maybe I'm not presenting myself, or maybe I'm not conscious enough of the way I'm presenting myself. Because if I can't see that that's how people will see me, then I'm not conscious of how I'm portraying myself.
Right.
That's what annoyed me. So there's a bit of like, it's a bit meta, but that's totally true. So it was less me being like, oh God, like me. And it was more like, oh, these people didn't like me and I didn't realise it. Right. And it was that lack of awareness and realisation.
Right. And the feeling that comes from that, is that like, do you feel, I don't know, I'm just chucking words out. Do you feel a bit stupid? Do you feel a bit embarrassed?
You feel a bit embarrassed, and you also feel a little bit like, oh God, like, is that how I am? Like, is that what I'm like? And I came to the conclusion, no, that's not what I'm like.
Good.
All the time, but
I can be a cunt.
Yeah, I mean, but as anyone in life can, but that's also not an excuse. It was that I needed to look at that anyway, and that was that. It didn't keep me up at night, but it was certainly it was a frustrating time.
And what a bizarre thing, like, you know, the fact that, you know, you're living your life. It's not something that when you're 10 years old you think, oh God, I hope, you know, when I'm 30, there aren't these faceless people who are allowed to comment on me in this way. Yeah. Like, it's such a strange world. And the other thing is, I think there's a natural sensitivity that any person would have, because as someone who would look at the comments as well at a few things, I looked at it and there was 4%, 3% of people going, yeah, I don't like him, he is a rat, or whatever. That means there's 97% of people that are going, oh, this is nonsense. Yeah. But as a human being, you're going through it and going, where's the bad one? Where's the bad one? There it is. And then you can kind of it's human nature to kind of go to that. There's also that slight enjoyment of reading it and being a little bit riled up by it in the, like, on a very strange sort of animal level, like a primal level, where you're like, oh, fuck that person, do you know what I mean? But then there's also, not to take this too Chris Eubank, but there is the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, where it talks about, let me find this, Oh, this is a nice ending, isn't it?
This is a good one. So
finish on a little
see if I can find Rudyard.
Can you do it in the Chris Eubank accent?
Yeah, current account, all accounts,
You'll be a man, my son.
One day, you'll be a man, my son. Rudyard. Keep it in my notes, so there he is.
That is very Laurence.
That's very Laurence, yeah.
I like to keep my favourite poems.
I like to. It's also very Chris Eubank, who is someone like that's someone that I look at and go, he is not self-aware. There's a few quotes within it. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. Those are all things I'm like guilty of. I'm impatient. I'm quite bad at waiting.
We all are.
But I'm good at, when I am patient, it's so much more satisfying. I'm sarcastic, which some people can misinterpret as hating. And then also, I'm very good at looking too wise. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, that's the YouTube comment section. So if you have an amazing comment, thanks. If you have a bad comment, thanks. Meet those two things in the same way and treat them the same, and treat them with the same sincerity that you treat both things, you'll be all right. And that's the way that I treat the YouTube comment section. And so it means that you go in there with this mindset of, oh, thanks for that.
Yeah.
And so many people, when they go, yeah, he is a little rat, some of them I'd reply and go, fuck off, you cunt. The other people I go, and when they go, yeah, he does annoy me a little bit, I go, yeah, I'm working on that. And they go, oh, thanks for the reply. And
they do go, thanks for the reply. It's mad.
Which I think that's, as a human.
I think that's an amazing thing to say, because I feel like I'm kind of going through that right this second, as someone who's making stuff, and you put it under your name, and you put it out there. And I had it the other week. I kind of, like, the views weren't good, but the comments were good, and I found myself confused. And I thought to myself, I was able to get to that point where it was like, it's not actually about you. Yeah. Like, it has to be about me, my skill set, my product, and that getting better. Yeah. That's what it has to be like. And whatever happens after, you can live with that.
Or you could, but that's also then part of the process, because the process does not end with that video. You're going to make another video afterwards.
Yeah.
You're not going to, if you stop after that video and it's your last hurrah, sure. But you are going to make another video, and you're making another video now, and all this and you've already learned from that previous video.
Absolutely.
So it's not.
It's that trial and error, isn't it? Living with that is tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you all want, you all want gratification. You all want it to work out. You all want it to be okay, and so it's tough to kind of, especially as a creative, kind of thinking, I kind of like this idea, and okay, all right, I've created this idea, and now I'm going to put it out there. That is something that's difficult to live with.
I really enjoy the grey areas. I really enjoy looking into the subjective and just going, everything is subjective. And I'm absolutely fine with that. I know that. A lot of people are brought up, and that's, again, comes down to, I went through that stage when I was a teenager of wanting definitive answers. There is no God. There is this is this, and this is the way the world works. And then in time, and my dad at the time had to deal with that. And ultimately, it was an older man who realised he has to go through this phase to get to the subjective phase.
Yeah, you have to test the black and white to realise it's not. They have to meet together, and there has to be.
You have to destroy them. Yeah, and you have to go. No, it isn't just black and white.
Absolutely.
And that has to happen. And if you don't practically go through that, and it's just someone who goes, life is grey or life is not black and white, you don't learn it in the same way as the moment when you go, shit, I'm an atheist cunt. That's the frustration.
Yeah.
So I enjoy existing in that grey area and finding out about that grey area.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there.
And don't be scared by that.
Yeah.
That is the way that we're brought up, and especially in our societies, to think Brexit is very much good or bad, those kind of things. A lot of people are brought up and still exist in that, is it good or is it bad world? And that's the way the comments will be sometimes. But it's not always going to be that way.
I put it out on Twitter, what questions have people got? And one person said, forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but
it was Rudyard Kipling.
It was Rudyard, Junior, Rudyard Junior. He was saying that you look at Ricky Gervais and you talk to him and you say to him, you've impacted a whole generation of guys who talk to each other, and even in this podcast, I'm sure we've done loads of little extraisms or officeisms or whatever. He was saying, how do you feel about being someone who's kind of impacting on people's lives and what they talk about and stuff like that? Now, I don't know, that's another one for another process. But what I did want to ask you is, so someone who's sort of 12, 13, what little bit of advice, and they want to create videos and be successful at some point, what kind of advice would you look to give them? What would you say to them? Doesn't have to be you as 13, just someone.
Just start doing it. Don't worry about the Gary Vee generation or the Gary Vee mentality. And I'm not critical of Gary Vee in the sense, but the Gary you know exactly what I mean when I say that. That always be doing it, always be thinking, don't let your mind turn off. Don't do that. Some of the best moments come after I've relaxed, or some of the best moments come after I've meditated, or some of the best
gone for a run,
slept, had a week off, all these things. You have to do the full process. You cannot do. I feel like people who just work all the time, 24/7, are trying to shortcut it, and you will find issues in that. And we have a generation of shortcutters, or people who are trying to be getting to the top very quick. If I work hard, then I'll get there really, really quick. That's not the only way of doing it, and don't hold that up as the standard. Those people aren't the best. There's a curve to it, and actually a lot of people exist in the middle of the curve, and the people who exist at either end probably not happy. Go out and look at things. Go out and explore a little bit. You do not have to be a YouTuber in a room doing this. There's a framework for you to work into on YouTube, but that framework, if you also leave it in certain ways, will also reward you. Don't think you have to just upload every day and do the same as everyone else. Don't think you have to just do commentary videos or the bubble you're stuck in. Try and look outside that bubble and see what you will find, and it will make everything you want to do so much better, because you'll end up with these new ideas. And that's what I loved at university, was I had people who were encouraging me to look outside of that. I said this to someone the other day, and I'll finish on this. At university, I didn't always enjoy hanging out with the film students, but I loved hanging out with the design students, because the design students gave me a different idea of how to construct my videos, and they thought differently to the film students who were in that film bubble. the design guys were doing all these amazing things. I remember watching them and thinking, I love that kind of thought. And it impacted my videos massively. And you can see my construction in the videos because of that. So that was it. I went outside of the bubble that I wanted to be in to find something else. And that really benefited me.
Perfect. Laurence, thank you very much. We'll have a cuddle in a second.
Do we shake hands or what?
No, I don't want to. We'll cuddle in a minute. If you are new to the process and you've enjoyed this one, then there are loads to enjoy, including the co-host to Loz. It's Loz's thing. But Brian, this guy Brian, it's called True Geordie, he gets involved every now and again.
I joked to him about this the other day. I joked to him about this the other day. I don't know if I made it in the video. I watched the full video, it's not there. But I went, what people don't realise is, I'm the puppet master, and you don't fucking know. And
that, fuming, isn't it?
I think it annoyed him a little bit, because I went, what people don't realise is, I'm the right wing one, and I'm just going, say all this shit. And he went, I'm not right wing, and I went, well, you would say that. So
do the bench press again.
Yeah, I love
bigger.
I love that process, and I love that's one thing I didn't say in this, but I love the process of a joke. I was going to talk to you about jokes that I love, comedians that I love. And the comedians aren't always the funniest ones, but I will laugh more at a joke that I like the construction of it than I actually like the funny punchline in itself. Right. So I'll go, the way you've done that is brilliant. That is a really funny construction. I really enjoy that.
Well, there you go. Look, if you want a part 2 of me and Laurence on the process, might have to pay him for the next one.
You don't.
If this one does well.
You'll never have to pay me to appear in your videos, unless, of course, they're sponsored.
Well, okay, yeah, of course. Yeah, if you want part 2 of the process with Laurence McKenna, then like this video.
Yeah, of course. It's also the way you went, yeah, of course. Anyway, yeah, of course, if they get sponsored, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
This one's my skill share.
Yeah, that's it. That's morally unfair.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Look, yeah, if you enjoyed the video, then subscribe. Subscribe on iTunes and Spotify as well if you want to check out the back catalogue. Got Smiv, Brian, Chris Pajak from the Redmen TV.
Pajak was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Loads. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Enjoyed that.
Now let's go and do the other one.
Oh, did I? I didn't mean to.